Very honored to have with us again today Mr. Phillip Parrish, Minnesota Patriot. Very pleased to be able to speak to you on current events and what's happening in our state, but of course nationwide. There's been a lot of things being set off here and there. We're speaking after the Nashville situation and other unknown anomalies nationwide. Um, can can you provide a little bit of clarity in terms of however far you're able to go in terms of sharing what's going on with these data points? Because I think it'll help provide some feelings of safety and security. I know you've put me at ease in terms of the right people are aware of situations. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'm just going to, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Phillip Parrish, can you share something with us today?
All right, very good. Thank you for having me, Wes. I think the thing that we talked about, and I've talked with a few people lately, is to help them feel a little bit more confident, is just remind ourselves that our intuition and our logic stream that we question things about, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not a conspiracy theorist. Your intuition is most likely accurate and correct. Those that are trying to make you feel like you're a conspiracy theorist or some kind of outlandish person, try to put that aside, put it on a shelf and put the book away and just leave it away and realize that, what we've been talking about, you and I and lots of us, people like us, we're talking about each of us helping each other develop discernment skills where we learn how to discern right from wrong, truth from fiction. So these data points that you're seeing, whether it's the election fraud or some of these activities leading up to the new year and these bombings and stuff like that, when you discern those data points, start asking yourself basic questions. And then don't trust the pundits, don't trust the other people to start the narrative for you. Build your own narrative. The bombing in sorry, I'm just completely going.
Memphis. Yeah.
Memphis. Sorry, the bombing in Memphis. Just do just a little bit of researching. Everything from, pull up a map on the internet and look at it from the, satellite view down. Look at the streets. Compare it to the pictures of the bombing. Take some pictures from Twitter or Facebook or wherever, or Instagram, and compare those. Notice when you pull up on a 30,000-foot view, and then you drill down and you notice the placement of the naming of buildings and the namings of companies in the area and how it relates to the airport. Come up with your own narrative. Develop your own narrative as to, gee whiz, why would they, whether it's the van, the motorhome or another explosive device or whatever the case may be, why would they do that? Why would they choose that location? What's the relationship to the airport? What's the relationship to the companies in that district or that block? Does it have something to do with AT&T communications industry? Does it have something to do with the databases, the large amounts of protected data? Does it have something to do with the fact that AT&T got a contract to do forensic investigation? Ask yourself these questions and don't let the pundits and the TV and the news anchors, don't let them drive the narrative. Don't let politicians drive the narrative, because politicians driving the narrative, you've already lost the game. You've lost the plot. Okay.
Right.
Because they're not making decisions based on truth and factual logic streams. They're making decisions based on a narrative they can benefit from. And whether that's intentionally ill-intended or whether it's intended to help people, they're developing narrative off of something that will bring them advantage. So let's see, that was a long list, wasn't it? So my biggest point is to put us at ease is we have some very serious challenges ahead of us, but trusting yourself, trusting in your prayer life, trusting in your connection to how your relationship with God and Jesus and how you discern what's going on around us, trust yourself, and you're not crazy. You're not alone. So that's kind of point one.
Well,
um,
that's a very good point. Because after all, if you gather your facts and do a little research, I, uh, I wonder if people didn't recognize that when the bomb blast took out the facility in Memphis, Tennessee, coincidentally, communications went out from Georgia, where an election's being contested in terms of servers, and then those servers routed through, to foreign destinations. And I'm speaking here. This isn't you. None of what I'm saying reflects on you at all. But the telecommunications went out in other states, including Louisiana, and
mhm.
then there were flights. Aerospace was shut down over major segments of the United States. So people who found out about that were speculating, well, what's going on? But other things happened in Colorado yesterday, and then another unexplained fire in New York City where uh, uh, ballots may have been printed. It's hard for us to get to what's real when the news is telling us to pay attention to some lost cat from
Mhm.
Rochester that was found in Owatonna, and we should be thankful that it's returned to its rightful owners.
Mhm. I noticed too that in a current event, not much of the press is talking about some incidents in the Twin Cities again last night.
Last
So,
night,
this is the sad thing about our.
we're speaking on December 31st, New Year's, and when you say last night, we're talking about December 30th. There was
Mhm.
activity going down in Minneapolis, but I just wanted to clear that up this is current. Yeah,
That's
sorry.
perfect. No, that sets the stage for no matter what the timestamp is for the recorded products that go out to the web. You have a statement very clear: 2020, December 30th, 2020, 31st, 2020. These are the timelines we're talking about, and it's good documentation because people like you and the programs that you produce and I produce are becoming more and more of the factual journalist documentation out there than our own journalist companies. Our U.S. journalist companies have become complete propaganda machines, and that's a fact. That's not, a year, 2 years ago, somebody would call me an idiot talking like that. But the majority of America completely understands now that most of our alleged free press are propaganda machines for foreign countries.
Too bad, isn't it? And could you just, while we're on that point, please drop your preferred social media contacts on Facebook and Twitter so people can follow you and be engaged with real information that's being presented by a person who has a wealth of information in this realm, as opposed to those journalists that have like a 2-year degree at a community college in how to operate a camera. Would
So,
you
yep.
give your Facebook and your Twitter and any other preferred
Yeah.
contact?
So the best springboard into all of my materials, the best springboard is my website called parrishformn.com. Parrish, the number four, mn.com. So Parrish, the number four, mn.com. And that website, it'll produce some of I'm going to build that page into a news page. And then, for sure, it connects you to my social media. And that way, that springboard is better to use that because you can get directly to the Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all the other things that are going on. Or the other thing you can do is simply type in Phillip C. Parrish, Phillip with two L's, the letter C for Charles, and then Parrish with two R's. And when you pull that up, you'll get all kinds of wonderful things on the internet about me nowadays. And
Well,
even the non-flattering stuff is good because most people with common sense, when they read the non-flattering stuff, they're like, "Are you kidding me?" All the non-flattering stuff is complete evidence of how terrible and corrupt the press is, because the non-flattering stuff actually documents and substantiates my comments and my opinions.
And I don't know if this was a Chinese proverb, but having the right enemies is sometimes as good as having the right friends, right? I don't know where that came from, but we'll
Hey,
also include all of your social media contacts in the comments or in the
mm,
description of this video below the video, so
yeah.
people can click on those links. What else do you think is going on in Minnesota or nationwide related to this election or the response to the election, or maybe some unknown groups acting, or can you mentioned a tremendous. I'm getting ahead of myself, but you mentioned a tremendous tool in talking me out of a tree branch the other day called CISA.gov. Maybe
Yeah.
we could end up there.
Yep. CISA is a government organ. So is the organization that deals with cybersecurity and infrastructure security, that cyber end of that world. And what they have done, or they're charged with doing, is making sure they warn the public and or officials about vulnerabilities. And right now, one of the best things to do, which I provided for you and you can throw in the links, is go to CISA.gov, CISA.gov. And that CISA.gov website, like the very first warning right now that's listed, I haven't looked at it this morning, but it should be probably the same one or a new one.
Still
But
infrastructure.
opening that
Yeah.
newest red click there with a warning, open that warning and start reading from there, and then let your mind trust yourself and let your mind do the logic stream and start asking questions. Well, gee whiz, we have a supply chain issue with cybersecurity, cyber infrastructure stuff. What does that mean? Well, then you go up and you look up supply chain issue and some vulnerabilities, and then you start to discover that the reason we have what's called an advanced persistent threat, APT, an advanced persistent threat is a very, very serious problem. And the public version of this on CISA's public website is I guarantee you, is a very politically correct, try not to inflame everybody, try not to cause hysteria version of the truth, right? So you have to extrapolate out of your mind if they're saying that this is a persistent threat that's still active and has completely compromised all government agencies, plus civilian agencies,
Yeah.
plus civilian organizations. What you have to extrapolate from that is, first of all, please, people, go read it. Second of all, extrapolate out what that actually means. That
Mhm.
means that at any moment, bad person, bad actor, no matter where they're from or what their intent is, bad actor has access to and has the capability of manipulating, destroying, ruining, shutting down, bringing back up. All of those possibilities are there. And if you have any IT experience at all, the IT people listening to this program are going to know, if not already know, exactly what I'm referring to. But all of us in the general public need to start asking ourselves, what's really going on here? And we need to start preparing accordingly because of those vulnerabilities.
When we were talking the other day, it's 2 weeks after the attack on the U.S. Treasury Department. It's a week after the attack on the Department of Defense, where they had to shut down their servers for the first time ever and start them back up again. And then recent new news is that there's an explosion in Colorado. And by the way, this is nothing is confirmed in terms of that incident in Colorado. However, an entire community is left without natural gas resources in the wintertime, and it's all cold out there. So you just I'm seeing a situation similar to what I believe the U.S. did, or another country did to Iran in terms of a nuclear power plant. And I wonder if some of these, we don't want to cause massive panic, but these anomalies or situations are related to the cyber infrastructure. We could be any banking institution, any hacks going on right now could be part of this. So CISA.gov is a great resource.
Yep.
And like, yeah, back to you, sir. Sorry.
No, that's a great summary, because in there again is that logic stream that you have to start forming for yourself and stop depending on the news and stop depending on the pundits to formulate your narratives for you. You need to start developing your own narrative. I sit down, I read the CISA website. What does that mean to my banking? What does that mean to my cell phone access? What does that mean to my critical access if we're without power, or we're without communication, or we're without transportation for a few days? What are my contingency plans? Like, you and I grew up in a time where they trained us to hide under a desk for a nuclear explosion. Imagine how silly that was, right? And
Right.
nobody laughed about it. That's just bizarre to this day. We're going to hide under a desk for a nuclear explosion during the Cold War. I don't know what brought that memory up, but wow.
Yeah.
So
Keep track.
really,
Keep track. Yeah.
but but even like fire training, for our homes and our kids, what do we practice? Where's the best exit? How do you exit? How do you stay near the floor? These things aren't things to fear or be scared of or cause panic with. These things are things that you should think about in any case, whether it's a tornado, or a bad actor takes down a power station, or a bad actor takes down the telecommunications so that airplanes have to be grounded. What are you doing for you and your family to have preparedness to cope with changes to your daily life and not panic and not be overwrought and depressed? What can you do to help yourself be prepared for these things that will most likely happen, whether it's a bad actor or not, or natural disaster? What can you do to be prepared?
Is there any news about, can we say anything about what may have sparked the closure of airspace over the United States at this point in time?
Yeah, so one of the most interesting data points about the Nashville incident is the fact that, again, sometimes ignore what the press is saying and ignore with the possibility of narratives, and start asking yourself, oh, is it true that they closed down? Yes, it is, because actually, if you go to the FAA website, you can find the documents where they did close the airspace above Nashville. So then you have to ask yourself, was that a standard operating procedure for terrorist activity? Was it something more than a standard operating procedure? Was there another threat that they were prepared for that they aren't telling us about? And all of those questions are not hysterical questions. All of those questions are good questions. But the fact is, what do we have for facts? We have a fact that a very large explosion took out a very large area of physical property. It actually caused more physical damage than what the press has told you about. It took out a communications hub. It is purported to be an area where they were possibly storing classified or secured information from the election. It had an impact on the airport. And then you have this report that the airspace was closed. So all of these are facts. Now, as you think through them and extrapolate out what those possibilities are, it's okay to do that. And you're not hysterical and you're not a conspiracy theory if you extrapolate out what that means. Are they trying to hide something about the election? Are they trying to hide something about or damage the people that own the companies in that area? Are they trying to damage or distract from another issue happening in another location? All of these things are real possibilities.
Or are the routers, perhaps the routers that were extant in the AT&T facility, somehow demonstrative of information that was being, just as if you were going to fly to Venezuela, you'd leave from Georgia or Miami. But was there some data in those servers where it demonstrates that American votes are being counted in China
And
or Spain or Germany and being routed somewhere else?
And there's definitely evidence of that. And if you look at the Georgia hearing and the videos of the Georgia hearing yesterday, and the fact that an IT group actually during Georgia election now, which is going on right now, and prepping for that Senate runoff, they have successfully accessed voting equipment And that is never supposed to be attached to the internet, never supposed to be interactive, never supposed to be two-way, never even supposed to be one-way. But that IT company in front of everybody during the hearing proved that they could access, contaminate, extrapolate, extract, and infect the voting pad, the machines inside that secured area. So these things are real, and your hypothesis or my hypothesis about what was going on in that area of the bombing is a very real prospect.
Yeah, tremendous and fantastic information. Let's just remind the people who are watching, you connect with Mr. Parrish via Parrish, that's Parrish, number 4mn.com. And from there, you can find all his other social media contact information, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Join and follow. And one of the sites he's mentioned is cisa.gov, which is a tremendous source of information. I've signed up for their instant messaging so I can receive information too. Is there anything else you'd like to say about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect and great substance there. Also, do your best to link up with ATF, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, their website, or get their newsletters. Link up with ATF, U.S. Marshals, and FBI, even though they're quite questionably not trustworthy at times. But link up with the FBI
Yeah.
and those kinds of things. And if you follow those nationwide agencies, especially ATF, and then you compare warnings and information, U.S. Marshals have done a great set of information lately and making sure people are aware of who they're tracking and who they've arrested lately. And it helps you put together a better picture of your own, what's really happening with some of this illegal activity. So if there's anything else I can say to the viewers today is, it is true and appropriate for you to understand it's not hysterical, it's not conspiracy theorists. It is true and appropriate for everyone to understand we have very, very bad people among us. Some of them are actual U.S. citizens that are bad people. Some of them are foreigners. Some of them are foreign agents of other governments. We do have elected officials that are compromised, and they are compromised both through behavioral things of they don't want you to know what they've done with everything from children to spouses to, compromise in all kinds of ways. But specifically, a bunch of them are compromised monetarily. You can't be a representative or a senator or a Congress. You can't be a servicing a public official and also have multi-million-dollar campaigns and plus own property in 2, 3, 4, 5 states. You don't get that kind of wealth from being a Joe Blow elected congressman or congresswoman. These questions that you're raising about our elected officials are legitimate, they're appropriate, and you should feel comfortable about talking about that.
Well, in the final couple of minutes, can you talk a little bit about the 6th of January? Because
Mm-hmm.
when we spoke the other day, there's a lot of things happening in terms of the attempt to accurately count what's going on. Arizona has flipped for Trump. I don't have another source on that, but I have a couple of sources. But Arizona's flipped. We're looking at New Mexico. Potentially next is Georgia, and then Pennsylvania. And of course, we hope for Michigan and Wisconsin, because I think we know this was 100,000 persons who voted for President Trump, and those ballots were all disappeared, as they'd say in
Mm-hmm.
Argentina, right? Some
Yeah.
were pushed out of a helicopter over the Atlantic Ocean, I suppose. But
Hmm.
do you have any uh, feeling about the 6th of January, what
Yeah.
they're calling Patriots Day?
I think the 6th of January is going to become a very, very tense, but a very, very critical day to our history of our country. I believe there are a lot of representatives and senators that are holding their powder, so to speak. In other words, what I mean, I'm not talking about real, guns blowing up.
No, no.
The,
Metaphorically,
the
we're speaking
figurative
metaphorically.
language of
Yes,
holding your powder.
we're using the language of English, which is a gift of our ancestors and William Shakespeare.
Philip
Yes,
and Wes are not threatening to blow
no, absolutely not.
up. And so it's a figurative language
Excuse
for
me,
holding your
excuse
power.
me. He mentioned something very bad. He talked about powder. No,
So
sorry.
I believe that they're really holding tight to their chest this idea that what they're going to actually do on the 6th. I believe there's more representatives and more senators that are going to object to the Electoral College. They're going to reject the Electoral College. I believe Mike Pence is going to reject the authenticity of the election in its total. I think all of them are struggling with how to cope with the fact that it may be good things for some people. It's most likely it's very good for President Trump, but there might be some Republicans where some of this pay to play, that's what it
Mhm.
is, pay to play organizations might have
Yes,
some bad light on some Republicans. It doesn't matter to me. And I know for you, I don't care if you call yourself a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. I really don't care. We're talking about the Constitution and freedom. We're talking about us as an America, what we stand for. And if it exposes people on both sides of the fence, God bless us, that's what we need to do. Because I believe that there are good people there. The majority of these people are good people and they want the truth to come out. I'm praying for all of them that they have the courage and discernment to do the right thing, do what is right, stand tall and proud. Stop worrying about next year's election or next time's election, or stop worrying about your fundraising campaign, or stop worrying about whether or not Sally down the street that was your best donor for your campaign, whether she's going to be mad at you or he's going to be mad at you for your coming out and telling the truth. Just tell the truth. And I believe January 6th is going to be a big revelation of a lot of truths. And I believe that Mike Pence is going to do the right thing. I'm a little bit worried about all this gamemanship that's leading up to the 6th. I got a feeling based on experience that a lot of what we're hearing and seeing is messaging, you know,
um,
and messaging gets to the point where it's kind of like a family, where you all sit around the table, you have those family members, and we need to get Sally or Joe to understand something. And so somebody concocts some kind of scheme to be passive aggressive or manipulative to get Sally to understand something, right?
yeah,
And so they come up with all kinds of narratives or all kinds of lies to get Sally to respond, right?
right.
It's the same principle. These people are coming up with narratives and messaging to manipulate people's opinions and ideas. It's getting a little bit convoluted and scary. I
Yeah,
can hypothesize some of their messaging, but at the end of the day, is it genuine? Is it appropriate? Is it going to lead to the truth? We'll see. But I pray that they figure out a way to stand up and tell the truth.
let's hope it's a peaceful protest and that everyone gets home safe that night, right, sir?
I hope everyone that can go to January 6th there. I can't go because of many reasons, but I God bless anybody and everybody that can show up in DC, because just show up and show people. I mean, look at how ridiculous it's already become. We're talking liberal people who they've closed down entire sections of DC to make sure they can't accommodate
Right,
God fearing, God loving, country loving people.
right. They're trying to close down hotels and get restaurants to close so no one will bring food. And some of us were posting on social media today that, hey, we can live off wine and bread and we'll
Yeah.
be fine. Or
Bring
there
a
will be
tent. Bring
manna
a
from
tent.
heaven. Yeah, it's going to be fine and it's going to be peaceful. No one from our side is certainly going to do anything violent. And there's other things happening around the states, not just in DC. Of course, we're not here to promote those activities. That's not the function of this conversation.
Yeah.
But, waving the American flag on January 6th, even on your local street corner, might be a way you can show that you have eyes on the situation and you're aware of what's going on in DC. Just with an American flag, which is triggering enough for some folks these days.
Who'd have thought, right?
Who would have thought? Here we are, you know. It's like all our best folks are on the perimeter guarding the outside, so all these people on the inside with the Kool-Aid hair can act crazy. Let's just say Parrish for Minnesota, Parrish 4mn.com. Check it out there so you can get connected with Facebook and his Twitter and his Instagram and all his other social media, and watch his program Freedom Talks with Phil. Is the full title Freedom Talk with Phil? What is
Yep,
the
perfect. That's right.
Yeah.
It's catchy.
Okay.
Yep, Freedom Talk with Phil.
Thank you
And I have a book coming out, Freedom Talk with Phil. We're going to come up with a little subtitle there, catchy. If you have an idea, send me a note. But it's going to be basically how to determine the truth, or discernment, or discerning the truth. I'll have a little, but Freedom Talk with Phil, the book, how to discern the truth.
Well, we'll be looking for that, and we'll help promote it too through networks. And it's great because everybody should be more aware in terms of all situational awareness and being able to judge your surroundings and what's going on in this information war.
Yeah.
And I use the term war metaphorically as well.
It is a war. It is a war, though. Metaphoric or not, it is a war. It is the same type of warfare as if you are coming in and taking over a village. You're taking over a great nation's heart and soul, and this information warfare campaign needs to be exposed.
You've just riffed on a concept that makes me think further that maybe at some point we can talk about the way that our village is being taken over with ideas rather than a hot war.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that would be like a segue into another discussion where we can talk about information structures, the press, the fifth column, the public schools, and so forth, the university, the academy. But as for today, thank you for your time. This was short and sweet, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Wes. God bless.
Thank you, sir. I need it. God bless. Right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Cool.